a disgraced millionaire, alone on the 22nd floor, believing no one cared for him, until he overheard a soft voice coming from the break room. The cleaning lady, kneeling on the floor she cleaned every night, wasn't asking for a raise or a miracle for herself. She was praying for him, for the man she despised most. And what he heard in that prayer was so powerful it would turn his life, and hers, upside down. Ethan Maxwell tugged hard at his tie knot as he crossed the Lexington Hotel corridor toward the elevator. His skin burned where the fabric pressed his neck. New York City was humid that October night, and the hotel's air conditioning didn't reach the service corridors. He walked that path every day, but this Thursday, something felt different. Perhaps it was the smell of disinfectant mixed with the street food and subway, or perhaps it was the way Cassie Sterling had looked at him during dinner, her eyes cold, calculating. His apartment was on the 23rd floor of a building in the Upper East Side, smoked glass and a doorman who opened the door before he even stopped his car. Ethan had grown up hearing from his father that the Maxwell family hotels were made to serve. "We grow by serving, Ethan," the old man used to say, personally checking each room before the opening of the second hotel in the financial district. That's what makes the business honest. But his father had died 3 years ago, and his uncle Victor Thorne had taken over half the decisions. Victor didn't speak of serving. He spoke of expanding, cutting, profiting. Cassie was sitting on the white couch when Ethan walked in. She didn't lift her eyes from her phone. Her tight dress highlighted her straight shoulders, the studied posture of someone born frequenting the same clubs as him. Ethan had met her at a charity event at the Metropolitan Museum of Art Gala. She was beautiful in a way that hurt the eyes, so polished, so perfect. And for 6 months he had believed that was enough. "We need to talk," she said, still not looking at him. Ethan dropped his designer leather briefcase on the credenza. "About what?" "About you stopping being a child." Now she looked at him. Her light brown eyes didn't blink. "Your uncle has a serious buyer, a group from Florida. They want all 5 hotels. They'll pay cash. You sign, we get married. And stop pretending this is a non-profit." The word buyer hung in the air like a dead fly. Ethan sat in the armchair opposite the couch, his knees weak. "My father built these hotels to last. They aren't commodities." "Your father is dead, Ethan." Cassie's voice held no anger. It held the contempt of someone explaining basic math to a dull child. "And you're alone. Your mother will only sign what Victor tells her to. Your cousins just want their share. I'm the only good thing left in this story." "But I don't marry a loser." Ethan's stomach plummeted. He had suspected it for months. Small details, Cassie disappearing at parties, deleted messages, postponed dinners. But here was the confirmation. She didn't love him. Never had. He was just the signature missing from a contract. "You're with the buyer, aren't you?" The question came out low, almost a whisper. Cassie smiled. It was a small, knowing smirk. "I'm with whoever makes sense, Ethan, and you haven't made sense in a long time." She stood, picked up her Hermes bag from the back of the sofa, and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned one last time. "You have until Monday to decide. Either you sign the sale with the entire family, or you're alone with this obsession of yours to save the world." The door closed silently. Ethan remained in the armchair, staring at the emptiness she had left. The apartment was too big. 5 bedrooms, a terrace, a pool, and 2 empty. He stood, went to the window. Below, New York City blinked, millions of yellow lights carving up the night. Somewhere in the middle of that city, there were people who worked in his hotels. Housekeepers, cooks, receptionists. People who had names, faces, stories. And he, there on the 23rd floor, knew none of them. Maria Rodriguez counted the coins on the kitchen's formica table. $23.40. Not enough for Mateo's medicine. The boy lay on the living room sofa bed, his breathing wheezy, his chest rising and falling too fast. Asthma, a severe attack. The inhaler from the community clinic wasn't holding up anymore. She picked up her old, cracked screen phone and called the corner pharmacy. "How much is the Aerolin spray?" The attendant checked. $52. Maria thanked her and hung up. She looked at the coins again. She was almost $30 short. She looked at Mateo. The boy was 8 years old and was everything good she had in this life. Maria's mother had died when Mateo was 3. Cancer. The small bed and breakfast her family owned in Mystic Common, Connecticut, 3 rooms with an ocean view, breakfast on the porch, had been sold to pay for the hospital. But it didn't help. When her mother passed, only debt remained. And when the debt consumed everything, Maria took the boy and came to New York City. She was 19. She knew how to clean, cook, care. She found work as a cleaner, contracted, without benefits, earning $8 an hour. What she didn't know and only discovered later was that the hotel that had destroyed her family's bed and breakfast bore the Maxwell surname, Ethan Maxwell. The name was emblazoned on the golden plaque at the entrance of the commercial building where she now worked, cleaning bathrooms and corridors through the night. Maxwell Tower, Park Avenue, Midtown Manhattan. Maria hated that name with a dull, contained rage that burned slowly. But that night, with Mateo wheezing on the couch, anger wouldn't buy medicine. She grabbed her purse, counted the coins, put on her cleaning uniform, blue pants, white shirt, worn sneakers, and left for the subway station. She would work double shifts if she had to. She would scrub floors until her hands bled if she had to. But Mateo would get his medicine. The subway took 20 minutes. Maria sat on the hard bench near the back door and leaned her head against the window. The streets of New York City passed by, dark, lit only by car headlights and the faint glow of streetlights. She thought of her mother. "Don't hold grudges, Maria," her mother used to say when the B&B started to empty out. Grudges only corrode the one who carries them. But it was hard not to. It was hard not to look at the building's golden plaque and not feel her stomach churn. When Maria got off on Park Avenue, it was past 11 at night. The Maxwell Tower was the tallest building on the block, 25 stories of mirrored glass. She entered through the service door, greeted the night doorman with a nod, and took the elevator to the 22nd floor, where the executive offices were located. The shift was hers and 3 other women, all outsourced, all mothers. Maria liked the silence of the early morning. She liked working unseen, without anyone giving orders. But that night, she couldn't concentrate. The image of Mateo wheezing on the couch returned constantly. She cleaned the desks, emptied the trash cans, wiped down the glass partitions. And she thought about how to find $30 before dawn. It was when she passed the owner's office, Ethan Maxwell, the plaque on the door read, that she saw the light on. She stopped. The door was ajar. Maria hesitated. She shouldn't peek. But curiosity was stronger. She approached silently, leaned her shoulder against the wall, and looked through the crack. The man she hated was sitting in the leather armchair, his face buried in his hands. His shoulders trembled. He was crying. Maria recoiled, her heart pounding. It didn't make sense. In her mind, Ethan Maxwell was a villain. Rich, cold, distant. Yet there he was, alone, crying like anyone else, like a human being. Her anger wavered, just a little, but it wavered. Ethan let out a long sigh and wiped his face with the back of his hand. It was ridiculous. crying alone in the office at 11 at night. But he couldn't stop. The conversation with Cassie had stripped away the last layer of lies he still carried. He wasn't loved. Never had been. To his family, to his fiancée, to everyone. He was just a name, a bank account, a signature. He got up from the armchair, swaying slightly, and walked to the window. Below, New York City stretched as far as the eye could see. Millions of lives, millions of stories, and there he was, on the 22nd floor, completely alone. It was then he heard it. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A voice, feminine, whispering. It came from the break room next to the office. Ethan frowned. Who was there at that hour? He walked slowly to the break room door and pushed it open carefully. The cleaning lady was on her knees on the floor, her back to him, her hands clasped in front of her chest. She was praying, her eyes closed, her voice so low he could barely hear the words. But he heard his name. It was then he heard it. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A voice, feminine, whispering. It came from the break room next to the office, her back to him, her hands clasped in front of her chest. She was praying, her eyes closed, her voice so low he could barely hear the words. But he heard his name. That Mr. Ethan Maxwell finds the courage to see the harm his family's decisions have caused. Lord, open his heart to mend what was broken. Give him strength to change the course of the company. Lord, do not let him continue crushing poor people like my parents just to grow richer. Ethan stood paralyzed in the doorway, his chest tightened. That woman, that unknown cleaning, she was asking him to change, to stop doing harm. Maria felt the presence before she saw it. She slowly opened her eyes, turned her head, and froze. Ethan Maxwell was standing there, still in the break room doorway, looking at her. His face was red, wet. He had been crying. "I'm sorry," Maria murmured, standing up quickly, her legs wobbly. "I shouldn't have. I'll just go. I'm sorry." "Wait." His voice came out hoarse, almost broken. "Why were you praying for me?" Maria swallowed hard. Fear climbed her throat. She was going to be fired. She was going to lose her job. But something in that moment, maybe the way he looked at her, or perhaps the exhaustion of carrying resentment alone, made her speak the truth. "Because I hate you," she said, her voice trembling. "I hate your last name. I hate your hotels. A hotel from your family destroyed my parents' bed and breakfast in Mystic, Connecticut. My mother died trying to save it. And I'm here, cleaning the floors of your building, earning $8 an hour without benefits, unable to buy medicine for my son." Tears ran down her face unbidden. "But my mother always said not to hold grudges. And I was trying. I was trying not to hate you. I was praying for you to have the courage to change. Because if you don't change, more people will suffer as I have suffered." The silence that fell between them was dense, heavy. Ethan looked at her as if he were seeing something for the first time. Maria wiped her face with her uniform sleeve and lowered her head. She waited for dismissal. But what came was different. Ethan took 2 steps into the break room and leaned against the wall, his legs weakening. "My God," he murmured, his voice fading. "My God, what have I done?" And then he collapsed, not in silent tears, but in deep, raw sobs that came from a very profound place. He slid down the wall until he sat on the floor, his head between his knees, his body trembling. Maria stood there, still, unsure what to do. Part of her wanted to leave. Part of her wanted to scream. But there was something in that cry that held her. It wasn't a cry of self-pity. It was a cry of recognition, of someone finally seeing the extent of the damage. "I'm sorry," Ethan said between sobs. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Maria slowly knelt in front of him. "Sorry doesn't bring anything back," she said, but her voice came out softer than she expected. "But change perhaps will." Ethan lifted his head. His eyes were red, swollen. "How?" he asked. "How do I change? How do I fix this?" Maria took a deep breath. "You stop pretending your decisions don't hurt anyone," she said. "You look at the people who work for you. You listen, and you choose to do differently." The next morning, Ethan woke up on the office couch. He had slept there, fully dressed, his shirt wrinkled. The conversation with Maria had lasted until almost 2 in the morning. She had told him everything about the B&B in Mystic, about her mother, about Mateo, about the $30 she lacked to buy the medicine. Ethan had listened to every word as if it were the first time he'd heard a true story. Before she left, he had given her $300. "For the medicine," he had said, "and for whatever else you need." Maria had hesitated, but accepted. "This changes nothing," she warned him. "$300 doesn't erase what happened to my family." Ethan knew, but it was a start. Now, in the morning, he got up from the couch, washed his face in the office bathroom, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. His face was pale, his eyes red, but there was something different. For the first time in months, he knew what to do. Ethan called the family lawyer, a serious and discreet man named Mr. Robert Chen. "I need you to investigate the hotel contracts in Mystic, Connecticut," Ethan said. "I want to know everything. Licenses, bribes, agreements with the town council. Everything." Mr. Chen hesitated. "Ethan, your uncle won't like this." "I don't care," Ethan replied. "I want the truth." Afterward, he called Cassie. She answered on the third ring. "Decided?" she asked, her voice impatient. "Yes," Ethan said. "I'm not signing the sale, and our engagement is off." Silence on the other end. Then, a short, dry laugh. "You're dumber than I thought, Ethan. Good luck trying to hold this company together on your own." She hung up. Ethan put his phone in his pocket. His hands trembled, but he felt lighter than he had in months. For the first time, he was making decisions that made sense, not for money, not for status, but because they were right. At 10 in the morning, he called an extraordinary family meeting. Victor Thorne arrived huffing, his face red. "What is this, Ethan?" "I have important things to do." "Me too," Ethan said, his voice firm. "I want to review all the expansion projects you've approved in the last 5 years. I want audits. I want transparency." Victor stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "Are you questioning my work?" "I'm questioning the ethics of our work," Ethan replied. "And if I find out we hurt people to profit, I will fix it, no matter the cost." Victor let out a bitter laugh. "You don't have the guts for this, boy. You're weak. Always have been." Ethan held his uncle's gaze. "Maybe, but I'm not a coward." The meeting ended in a fight. Victor stormed out, slamming the door. The cousins remained silent, divided. Ethan's mother, a fragile woman who never opposed Victor, whispered, "Be careful, son. Your uncle doesn't forget." Ethan knew, but there was no turning back. That afternoon, he sent a message to Maria. "I need to speak with you again. Can you come to the office tomorrow morning?" She replied an hour later. "I'm afraid to go there during the day. Your uncle will see me," Ethan thought. "Then let's meet in a neutral place. You know Bryant Park? Tomorrow, noon, on the bench near the fountain." Maria took a moment to reply. "Okay." The next morning, Ethan arrived at Bryant Park at 11:40. The October sun beat down, and the park was full. street vendors, pigeons, homeless people, tourists. He sat on the bench near the fountain and waited. Maria appeared at precisely noon. She wore faded jeans and a simple white blouse. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry. But there was a beauty in her that Ethan couldn't ignore. It wasn't magazine beauty. It was real beauty. "Hi," she said, sitting beside him. "I want to know exactly what my family did, and I want to fix it." Maria looked at him sideways. "Why?" "Because you were right," Ethan said. "I was pretending my decisions didn't hurt anyone. And they do hurt. I want to be different." Maria was silent for a moment. Then she asked, "And your family? Will they let you do this?" "No," Ethan admitted, "but I won't ask for permission." She nodded slowly. "Then you'll need help." "I know," Ethan said, "and I wanted to ask you to help me. You know the story. You know the people who were hurt. I need someone to keep me honest." Maria laughed, but it was a joyless laugh. "You want a cleaning lady to help you fix an empire?" "I want you to help me do what's right," Ethan corrected. "It doesn't matter what you are. It matters who you are." 2 weeks later, Mr. Robert Chen handed Ethan Maxwell a 200-page dossier. "You won't like it," the lawyer warned him. Ethan opened the dossier at home, alone, and read all night. The truth was worse than he had imagined. The hotel in Mystic, Connecticut, had been approved through bribes paid to the city council. Forged environmental permits, manipulated inspections, and Victor Thorne was at the center of it all. The small family-owned bed and breakfasts in the region, including the Rodriguez families, had been intentionally stifled. Surprise inspections, absurd fines, veiled threats, all to force them to close and clear out the competition. But there was more. The outsourced cleaning company that worked in the Maxwell buildings, the same company Maria worked for, was owned by a frontman linked to Victor. His uncle profited twice, from the hotels and from the exploitation of the cleaning ladies who earned paltry wages. Ethan closed the dossier and felt nauseous. This wasn't business. It was crime, and it was being done in the Maxwell family's name. In his name. The next morning, he called Maria. "I need to show you something. Can I pick you up?" She hesitated. "I don't know if it's a good idea for you to come here." "I'll take a cab," Ethan promised. Nothing flashy. Maria lived in Jackson Heights, Queens, New York, in a 4-story apartment building. Ethan took a cab from Park Avenue and asked the driver to wait downstairs. He went up to the 3rd floor and knocked on apartment 34. Maria opened, surprised. "You actually came." "I said I would," Ethan replied. Behind her, on the sofa, a thin boy with large eyes looked at him. "Mateo." "Hi," Ethan said, waving. Mateo waved back. "Are you Ethan? My mom talked about you." Ethan smiled. "I hope she said good things." "Sort of," Mateo replied, serious. Maria rolled her eyes. "Mateo, go to your room." The boy obeyed, but not without first looking Ethan up and down with suspicion. When he left, Maria crossed her arms. "What do you want to show me?" Ethan handed her the dossier. "Read this." Maria sat at the kitchen table and read. It took her almost 2 hours. Ethan stood, looking out the window, waiting. When she finished, she was pale. "My God," she murmured. "It was all a setup." "It was," Ethan confirmed, "and I'm going to fix it. But I need concrete proof. Witnesses, documents. Do you know other people who were affected?" Maria nodded slowly. "I do. There are people in Mystic who are still in debt because of this." "Then let's go there," Ethan said. "You and I. We'll talk to those people. We'll gather the evidence, and we'll sue my uncle." Maria looked at him as if he had lost his mind. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Ethan said. "I can't live with myself knowing this happened, and I can't change it alone." Maria was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, What if your uncle finds out? He could destroy you. He could, Ethan admitted. But if I do nothing, I'll destroy myself. They traveled to Mystic, Connecticut on a Thursday morning. Ethan rented a car, a white Honda Civic, nothing flashy, and drove the 5 hours to the historic town. Maria sat quietly in the passenger seat, watching the road. Mateo had stayed with the neighbor. Mystic was everything Ethan had imagined, and nothing he expected. The historic town, with its charming streets and colorful houses, was beautiful. But there was a sadness in the air, a feeling that something precious had been lost. Maria guided Ethan to where her family's small bed and breakfast used to stand. Now it was a parking lot, empty, a padlock on the gate. "It was right here," she said, pointing. 3 rooms, a balcony, an ocean view. My mother planted jasmine by the entrance. Ethan looked at the empty lot and felt a tightening in his chest. "I'm sorry." "You already apologized," Maria said. "Now you need to fix it." They spent the next 3 days talking to former B&B owners, local merchants, city officials who had been pressured to falsify documents. Each story was worse than the last. Families ruined, people who had lost everything. Some cried as they told their tales. Others spoke with anger. But they all had one thing in common: the Maxwell name. Ethan recorded the testimonies, collected documents, took photos, and with each story, his guilt grew. But along with the guilt came something stronger: determination. On their last night in Mystic, Ethan and Maria sat on the porch of the bed and breakfast where they were staying. The sea breeze carried the scent of salt. The sky was full of stars. "You're doing a good thing," Maria said, breaking the silence. Ethan looked at her. "I'm trying to fix a wrong. It's not the same thing." "But it's a start," Maria insisted, "and that counts." Ethan took a deep breath. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared of failing, scared of Victor, scared of losing everything." "You've already lost everything," Maria said softly. "You told me yourself. Your fiancé betrayed you. Your family uses you. You have nothing real. So, what more can you lose?" Ethan looked at her and realized something. Maria was no longer angry. She was there, beside him, helping, and that changed everything. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" she asked. "For giving me a chance to be better." Maria smiled. It was a small but genuine smile. "You're giving yourself that chance, Ethan. I'm just reminding you not to give up." They returned to New York City on Sunday. Ethan dropped Maria off at home and went straight to the office. He had work to do. On Monday morning, he called a meeting with the company board. Victor Thorne, his cousins, his mother, the lawyers. Everyone was there. Ethan walked into the boardroom carrying the dossier. "I have proof here that our expansion in Mystic, Connecticut was carried out criminally," Ethan began, his voice firm. "Bribes, falsified documents, intimidation of competitors, all orchestrated by Victor." The silence in the room was absolute. Victor slowly rose, his face red. "You have no idea what you're doing, boy." "I know exactly what I'm doing," Ethan replied. "Either you leave the company voluntarily and we try to fix this discreetly, or I hand these proofs to the police and we become front-page news." Victor took a step toward Ethan. "You don't have the guts." "I do," Ethan said, "and you know it." The tension in the room was palpable. The cousins looked at each other. Eleanor Maxwell, pale, clutched her pearl necklace tightly. Mr. Robert Chen, the lawyer, cleared his throat. "Ethan is right. If this information leaks, we will all be prosecuted. The best option is a settlement." Victor looked around, realizing he was alone. "You'll regret this," he spat. But he signed his departure. He took a multi-million-dollar severance package and an NDA and vanished. Ethan did not care. The important thing was that Victor was out. With Victor out, Ethan began implementing changes. He rescinded the contract with the outsourced cleaning company and hired the employees directly with proper registration, benefits, and a living wage. He created a community reparation fund for the families harmed in Mystic, Connecticut, and he insisted that Maria coordinate the project. "I don't know how to do this," Maria protested. "You do," Ethan said. "You know the people. You know what they need. I trust you." And for the first time, Maria believed him. 6 months later, Maria was sitting at a meeting table on the 22nd floor of the Park Avenue building. She wore a well-tailored blazer that Ethan had helped her choose. "It's not a gift, it's a work uniform," he had insisted. But she knew it was more than that. Around the table, the Maxwell Hotel's directors looked at her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Maria took a deep breath and opened the presentation on the notebook. "Over the past 6 months, the Community Reparation Fund has paid out compensation to 32 families in Mystic, Connecticut," she began. "In addition, we financed the reopening of 7 small bed and breakfasts and created a microcredit program for local merchants." One of the directors, a gray-haired man named Augusto, raised his hand. "And how much did this cost the company?" $2 million, Maria replied. But the return in public image and trust was nearly 10 million. The director grimaced. "That's speculation." "It's not," Ethan intervened. "We hired an independent consultancy. Surveys show that the public views Maxwell Hotels as a responsible company, and that translates into more bookings, more loyalty, more revenue." The director grumbled, but did not argue further. Maria continued. "Furthermore, the health program for employees' children reduced absenteeism by 40%. People work better when they know their families are protected." Ethan smiled, proud. Maria had learned fast. She wasn't just a coordinator, she was a leader. When the meeting ended, Maria left the boardroom with trembling hands. "I hate public speaking," she confessed to Ethan. "You were incredible," he said. "They respect you." "They tolerate me because you're here," Maria corrected. "No," Ethan said, stopping in the hallway and looking at her. "They respect you because you're competent, because you speak the truth, and because you aren't afraid of them." Maria looked at him, and something shifted. It wasn't a movie moment. It wasn't a declaration. It was just a look. But in that look was something new, something neither of them was ready to name yet. "Thank you," she said softly. "Why?" Ethan asked. "For believing in me." That night, Ethan invited Maria and Matteo to dinner at his home. Not in the Upper East Side apartment. He'd sold that last month. Too big, too empty. Now he lived in a townhouse in Greenwich Village, with a yard and a grill. Matteo ran inside, exploring every room. "You have a pool!" he shouted from the yard. "I do," Ethan replied, smiling. "Do you know how to swim?" "No," Matteo admitted, "but I want to learn." "Then we'll learn together," Ethan said. "I don't really know how to swim well either." Matteo looked at him, surprised. "You're rich and you don't know how to swim?" "Being rich doesn't mean I know everything," Ethan said. "It means I have money, but there's a lot I don't know." Matteo considered this. "Fair enough." Maria watched from the yard, arms crossed. There was something in the way Ethan treated Matteo, without condescension, without pity, with respect, that touched her deeply. They had dinner in the yard. Ethan grilled steaks. Maria brought corn on the cob and potato salad. Matteo ate 3 servings and fell asleep on the couch afterward. When the boy drifted off, Ethan and Maria sat on the porch, sipping cheap wine she had brought. "Are you happy?" Maria asked suddenly. Ethan thought. "Happier than I've ever been," he replied. "And you?" "More than I thought I'd be," Maria admitted. "But I'm still scared." Scared of what? Of waking up and finding out this was all a dream, she said. Of you going back to being the cold millionaire I imagined. Of me going back to just being the cleaning lady. Ethan held her hand. You were never just the cleaning lady, Maria, and I was never the cold millionaire. We were just pretending to be what others expected. Maria looked at his hand holding hers. And now? Now we are who we choose to be, Ethan said, and I choose to be someone better. Maria smiled. Me too. But not everything was perfect. 1 month later, Maria Rodriguez received a call from her neighbor. Mateo's feeling bad. You need to come. Maria dropped everything and rushed home. Mateo was lying on the couch, his face pale, his breath short. It was asthma again, but this time worse. Let's go to the hospital, Maria said, scooping the boy into her arms. They took a taxi to New York Presbyterian Hospital. Mateo went straight to the emergency room. Maria sat in the waiting area, her hands trembling, praying softly. Ethan Maxwell arrived 20 minutes later. How did you know? Maria asked, surprised. You called me, remember, he said. She didn't remember, but it didn't matter. He was there. Ethan sat beside her and held her hand. He's going to be okay. You don't know that, Maria murmured. I do, Ethan said, because he's strong, just like his mom. Maria began to cry. I'm so scared of losing him. He's all I have. You won't lose him, Ethan said. And you don't just have him, you have me too. Maria looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. Why? Why do you do this for me? Ethan took a deep breath. He could have said many things. He could have made excuses. But he decided to tell the truth. Because I fell in love with you. The silence between them was complete. You don't have to answer now, Ethan continued. You don't have to answer ever. I just wanted you to know. But Maria didn't answer, because at that moment, a nurse came out of the emergency room. Mateo's family? Maria jumped up. I'm his mother. He's stable, the nurse said. It was a severe attack, but he'll be fine. We'll keep him admitted for a few days, but he'll recover. Maria collapsed in tears of relief. Ethan hugged her, and she didn't resist. She clung to him as if he were the only solid thing in the world. In the following days, while Mateo recovered in the hospital, Ethan visited every day. He brought books, games, chocolates. He talked to the boy about soccer, about school, about dreams, and Mateo, little by little, began to trust him. One afternoon, while Maria was in the cafeteria, Mateo asked Ethan, "Do you like my mom?" Ethan didn't lie. "I do, very much." "Are you going to marry her?" Mateo asked seriously. "If she'll let me," Ethan replied. "And if you'll let me," Mateo thought. "All right, but you have to promise one thing." "What?" "That you'll never hurt her," Mateo said, his eyes fixed on Ethan's. "Because if you hurt her, I'll punch you." Ethan smiled. "Deal." When Mateo was discharged, Ethan drove them home. But this time, he didn't leave. He stayed. He helped prepare dinner, helped Mateo with his homework, stayed up late talking with Maria in the kitchen. "You don't have to do this," Maria said. "I know," Ethan responded, "but I want to." "Why?" "Because you and Mateo are my family now," Ethan said simply. "And family takes care of family." Maria's heart tightened. "Ethan, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Of trusting you and you letting me down," she admitted. "Of you waking up one day and realizing I'm not good enough. That I'm just a former cleaning lady from Mystic St. Petersburg." Ethan held her face in his hands. "You were never just a cleaning lady. You are the strongest, bravest, most beautiful woman I've ever known. And I won't disappoint you, I promise." And then, for the first time, they kissed. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was a real kiss. Nervous, shy, but true. When they parted, Maria was crying. "I fell in love with you too," she confessed. "But I didn't know if I could." "You can," Ethan said. "Always." 6 months later, they traveled to mystic St. Petersburg again. This time, not to investigate, but to celebrate. The community center Ethan had financed was ready. It was a beautiful building, painted white and blue, with classrooms, a library, and a sports court. On the entrance plaque, it read, "Maria Rodriguez Community Center," in honor of Maria's mother. When Maria saw the name, she broke down in tears. "You did this for her?" "I did it for her," Ethan said, "and for you, and for all the people who were wronged." The inauguration was grand. Half the town was there. Former inn owners, merchants, children. Everyone wanted to thank them. Maria gave a speech, her voice trembling. "My mother always said we had to do good, even when the world did evil. And today, I see she was right. Because this center isn't just a building. It's proof that people can change, that regret can turn into reparation." Ethan was sitting in the first row next to Mateo. The boy looked at him and whispered, "You're cool, Uncle Ethan." Ethan smiled. "You too, Mateo." After the inauguration, Maria and Ethan walked to the spot where her family's B&B used to be. The parking lot was still there, empty. But now, Maria no longer felt just sadness. She felt something akin to peace. "She would have liked what you did," Maria said. "She would have liked you," Ethan replied. "You are the daughter she raised, strong, just, full of love." Maria leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you." "For what?" "For letting me be myself." They returned to New York City the next day, but this time, Ethan didn't go to his own place. He went to Maria's house and stayed. In the following weeks, they started talking about the future, about officially living together, about marriage, about Mateo having a better school, better health insurance, a better life. But there was a fear Maria couldn't hide. "What if your family doesn't accept us?" she asked one night. Ethan was lying in bed beside her. "They don't need to accept us. I don't need them." "But they're your family," Maria insisted. "You and Mateo are my family now," Ethan said. "They are just people who share a last name with me." Maria fell silent. Then she asked, "You won't regret choosing me?" "Never," Ethan said with conviction. "You saved me, Maria. That night, when you prayed for me, you gave me a reason to change, and I will spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you." Maria turned to him, her eyes shining. "You already have." A year later, Ethan asked Maria to marry him. It wasn't in a fancy restaurant. It wasn't on a paradise beach. It was in their kitchen on a Sunday morning while she made coffee and he fried eggs. "Maria," he said suddenly. "Hmm?" she replied, distracted. "Marry me." She paused, the coffee cup in midair. "What?" Ethan knelt right there on the kitchen floor, holding a simple gold ring. "Marry me. Not because I'm rich, not because I own hotels, but because I love you, because you make me want to be better, because I can't imagine my life without you and Mateo." Maria dropped the cup in the sink and knelt in front of him. "Yes, yes," Ethan repeated, disbelieving. "Yes," Maria confirmed, laughing and crying at the same time. "I'll marry you." They kissed right there, on the kitchen floor, with coffee burning on the stove and eggs sizzling in the pan. And when they separated, Mateo was standing in the doorway, watching. "Finally," the boy said, smiling. "I thought it was going to take you forever." They laughed, and in that moment, everything made sense. The wedding was small. Only close friends and a few company employees were there. Eleanor Maxwell came, but didn't say much. His cousins didn't attend. Victor Thorne was in Boca Raton, Florida, spending his multi-million-dollar exit package and NDA. But none of that mattered. Because when Ethan saw Maria entering the garden of their Greenwich Village townhouse, wearing a simple white dress, His heart almost stopped. She was beautiful, not because of the dress, but because of her smile. A smile that said, "I trust you." Matteo was the ring bearer. He carried the rings with grown-up seriousness. And when the justice of the peace asked if Ethan accepted Maria as his wife, he replied with a firm voice, "I do." And when he asked if Maria accepted Ethan as her husband, she looked at him with shining eyes and said, "I do." They exchanged rings, kissed, and the few guests applauded. But the most moving moment came afterward, when Ethan knelt in front of Matteo and said, "I wanted to ask you something." "What?" Matteo asked, curious. "I wanted to ask your permission to be your father," Ethan said. "Not the father who made you, but the father who will be here, who will help you with your homework, who will take you to the doctor, who will cheer you on. Will you let me?" Matteo looked at his mother. Maria was crying. He looked back at Ethan. "Do you promise you won't disappear?" "I promise," Ethan said. "Then okay," Matteo said, and hugged Ethan tightly. The party was simple: a backyard barbecue, beer, soda, homemade cake, but it was perfect, because it was full of love. That night, when everyone had left and Matteo was asleep, Ethan and Maria sat on the porch, looking at the stars. "Are you happy?" Ethan asked. "More than I thought possible," Maria replied. "And you?" "Me too," Ethan said. "You know, a year and a half ago, I was alone in an office, crying, feeling like my life had no meaning. Then you appeared, praying for me, and you changed everything." Maria smiled. "I didn't change anything. I just prayed. You decided to change." "But you gave me courage," Ethan insisted. "You showed me it was worth trying to be better." Maria leaned her head on his shoulder. "We saved each other then." "Yeah," Ethan agreed. "We saved each other." 2 years later, Maxwell Hotels was a different company. It wasn't just about profit anymore. It was about impact. Ethan had implemented social programs in all units: decent wages, health benefits, daycare for employees' children. And the company grew, not despite these changes, but because of them. Maria was now director of social responsibility. She traveled, visiting communities, listening to stories, creating projects. And she was respected, not because she was the owner's wife, but because she was competent. Matteo, now 10 years old, was doing well. His asthma controlled, his health stable. He attended a private school that Ethan paid for, quietly, and he dreamed of being an engineer. "Just like you wanted to be, Mom," he would say. Maria hadn't become an engineer, but she was building bridges of another kind. Bridges between worlds, between rich and poor, between past and future. One afternoon, Ethan received a call from his uncle Victor Thorne. "Hello?" Ethan answered, surprised. "Hi, nephew," Victor Thorne said. His voice was different, softer, more tired. "I know you don't want to talk to me, and I understand, but I wanted to tell you something." "Say it." "You were right," Victor Thorne admitted. "I was wrong. I thought money was everything, and I lost everything because of it. My family, my respect, everything." Ethan remained silent. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Victor Thorne continued. "I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I admire you. You had the courage to do what I never did." "Thank you," Ethan said softly. "Take care of your family," Victor Thorne said, "and don't make the same mistakes I did." And he hung up. Ethan stood still, looking at his phone. It wasn't a complete apology, but it was a start. That night, he told Maria about the call. "Do you think he's changed?" she asked. "I don't know," Ethan admitted, "but I hope so." Maria held his hand. "You changed, and that's already a lot." 5 years after the night Maria first prayed for Ethan, They sat on the porch of their new home in Mystic, Connecticut. Ethan had bought the land where the Rodriguez family's bed and breakfast once stood and built a house there. Not a bed and breakfast, a house. For them. Mateo, now 13, was on the beach with friends. Maria was 6 months pregnant. It was a girl. They were going to name her Maria, after her grandmother. "Do you believe we made it here?" Maria asked, her hand on her belly. "Sometimes I don't," Ethan admitted. "But we did, and it was hard," Maria said. "It was," Ethan agreed, "but it was worth it." They fell silent, watching the sea. The breeze was soft. The scent of salt was in the air. Everything was peaceful. "You know what I sometimes think?" Maria said suddenly. "What?" "That night, when I prayed for you, I wasn't just praying for you. I was praying for myself too, because I needed to believe that rich people could be good, that the world could be fair. And you proved me right." Ethan turned to her, his eyes shining. "You proved something to me too." "What?" "That it's worth trying to be better, that it's worth changing, that it's worth loving." Maria smiled. "We really saved each other, didn't we?" "We saved each other," Ethan confirmed. And there, on the porch of the house that had once been only pain, they built something new. Not erasing the past, but transforming it into the future. Mateo returned from the beach, his feet sandy, his smile wide. "Dad, Mom, come see the castle I made." "Dad," the words still moved Ethan every time. He stood, helped Maria to her feet.